Welcome to lesson number 4, Drawing with a Croquis. Now today what we're going to learn is how to take drawing with a flat to the next level. And you can see here that these two figures that I have on the cover of your lesson number 4 are quite different than the flats that we just drew last week. For one thing, they're not perfectly symmetrical. And we'll take a look at how we're going to give our t-shirts a little bit of drape and how we're going to make them look more natural, and we call this an illustration, not a flat. So that's what we're going to work on today. So in order to draw an illustration, we're going to be working with a different kind of croquis. Now if you look at these croquis here, you'll see that they have a little bit of a pose to them. And I'll zoom in a little bit for you. Now you can see this croquis here, she is pretty much facing forward. And if we were to draw a t-shirt over her, it would pretty much be full front and it would look very much like the flat. If you can see this croquis, she's turned a little bit. And we're not going to see this much of her t-shirt as we are of this part of her t-shirt. So we always are looking at our center front. Where is the center front on the croquis? And here our center front has turned a little bit, and you can see that it's turned away from us. And here we can barely see the center front at all. So when we're looking at drawing an illustration, center front is really, really important, that we understand where it is and how it's going to relate to the garments that we're going to draw. Now, when you draw the back of a croquis, we're interested in the same thing. Now, on the back of a figure, we look at the spine, which goes right down the center of the figure. And you can see here, this one is, the shaded area here is a little bit less than the lighted area here. She's turned a little bit more away from us, and you can see we're seeing a little bit more here and a little less of the dark area. And we get to this one and we get to this one, and you can see that the spine is not in the middle anymore. Now we know that her spine is still in the middle of her back. Now we know the spine is still in the center of her back, and we know that she doesn't look contorted. It's just that when we draw this as an illustration, things are going to shift around a little bit. And that's really what the difference is between an illustration and a flat, is that the illustration is going to have some pose to it, and it's not going to be completely symmetric. Now I have given you two croquis. They're on in your syllabus. They are also posted in D2L. And you can see here that the front view of this croquis is twisted a little bit. And you can see her center front is kind of starting at her collarbone here, going down through her belly button. And by the time it gets to her waist, we can't even see the other side of the garment. Whereas this, we can see a little bit of her right shoulder. We see a little bit more of the back view, but it's not going to be perfectly symmetrical and perfectly straight when we go and we draw over that like we did with the flat. All right, so let's talk about how we're going to do this. You start with a piece of tissue paper, and you're going to put your tissue paper over your croquis, just like this. Now, what I want you to do is we're going to draw exactly the same garments that you drew of your flat. So you need to have lesson 1 in front of you, and I'll bring out my lesson 1 here so that you can see it. Fold it a little bit, and I'll put it right up here so we can see where we're going here. Let me zoom out a little bit. All right, so here's my t-shirt, and this is the front of my t-shirt, and this is the back of my t-shirt, and I am going to now draw those t-shirt flats, and I'm going to create the t-shirt on the illustration croquis. So let's work on the front first. I'll move this right over here so you can kind of see what I'm drawing. Now I always look at the neckline first, and one of the things you need to look at is how far down does the neckline go, and you have to kind of orient it to your croquis. This one is down, I'm going to say a little bit about right here. Now it's going to go up evenly to the shoulder, so I'm going to kind of locate, it's not at this jewel neckline here, it's out a little bit, and it's out a little bit on this side. So now what I've done is I've located 3 little points, 1, 2, 3. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect those 3 points together, like this, to form my neckline. Now one of the things you'll notice, let me go in a little bit more, when I'm drawing this, is that it's not perfectly symmetrical. This part of the circle is larger and this part of the circle is smaller. Now the other thing that I need to do, I'm going to move this over this way, and I'm going to bring my t-shirt down this way. See if we can get it so you can see everything. Everything in the camera range there. There we go. Now you can really see it. All right, so this is the t-shirt I'm drawing as a flat. This is my illustration. Now I'm going to look here and I'm going to just put my drawing, my illustration, rest it, oops, sometimes I press too hard, rest it on her shoulders. It looks like the curve of this t-shirt hits just about the same as the curve here. And I'm going to go ahead and draw my sleeve in now. I'm going to curve it around her armhole like this. I'm going to drape it over her arm. Now I've got to look at about how long is this t-shirt, not all the way down to her elbow. And I'm going to locate it about right there, curve it a little bit, and bring my sleeve down. So I've drawn my sleeve right over my arm. Now I'm going to look at here, and this is going to come, this is actually my side seam. And my side seam is going to curve down right to here. The back of my garment has to curve down over her butt. Can you see that? And I'm going to locate about how long it is, which is going to be about right there. So there's my, so here's my side seam. It's going to go all the way down. Now, what am I going to do over here? I can't even see this sleeve, so I'm going to draw in the part of the sleeve that I can see. Here's my sleeve seam. I've got another sleeve seam on this side. What's going to happen is it's going to go down and it's going to go over her bust. It's not real form-fitting, so I'm not going to curve it with her body too closely. I'm going to let it drape a little bit, and I'm going to curve the hem and join it together like that. Now, if this were a flat, I would have to show the back neckline, which is what I'm showing here. But this is a figure. It's got a figure in there. It's an illustration. So what I have to do is I have to show where the figure is. I have to draw her little neck in there like this. And I'm just going to loosely sketch in where her face is. Maybe give her a little bit of hair. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. And I also want to show that this figure has arms. I'm going to quickly sketch over my arms like this. Fingers. And her other arm is coming out here, and there's her hand, and maybe I'll just indicate where her butt is, but I'm pretty much just interested in drawing the top part of it. So now you can see what I've done here. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this out of here so that we can see what it's going to look like. Your drawing, and then you can really see. Now what I have to do is I need to add some detail so that this illustration looks like this illustration. So you're going to look at your original drawing. This has got a little bit of top stitching on the hem of the sleeve. Of course I can't see this sleeve over here. I've got some top stitching down here. It's going to go all the way around, and I also have a little band right here that I need to draw in like this. And that looks pretty good. So this is my illustration. This is my flat. So to complete it, what I'm going to do is I am going to ink it in. So I'm going to take a fresh piece of paper. I'm going to put it over my illustration. I'm going to start with my 05 because it's my bigger pen. And I'm going to very carefully ink it. And I'm going to start with her neck right here. Now don't be shy about turning your paper as you're inking, because like I do better if I can turn my paper, and when I turn my paper I can get a better stroke. So there's the sleeve, and I'm going to draw her other sleeve over here. Try and do it as smoothly as I can. I'm going to come down here the front. There's my hem. There's my back. I'm going to do my detail lines with my finer pen. In fact, I think what I'll do is I'll do my Croquis with the finer pen too, because what I really want to show off is my drawing. So I'm going to use my finer one here for my pen. Now remember, with an illustration, you always have to show the Croquis, because there's always a figure underneath that. It's one of the first things we do when we draw a flat is we remove that Croquis so we can show the back neckline. And I've got a little bit of top stitching right here. Now you'll notice I'm doing this with my finer pen. It's much easier to do. And I'm going to get it as even as I can. And I'm going to do my little side seam there with my fine pen also. If I want to add some detail, there's her little face. Give her a little mouth, eyes, and let me give her some curly hair. Kind of an odd looking little head, but at least you can tell what the figure is. And that's pretty much it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip my croquis back underneath here, and I am going to draw the back view of the croquis, of the t-shirt. And so if I look again at my sample, here's my back. I can get it in the screen there for you. Let's move it over this way. There's my t-shirt back. It's pretty simple looking, and it doesn't I just need to get the neckline correct on it. So let me move over this paper here so you can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to use my pencil, my mechanical pencil. Now to draw the back of the croquis, I've slipped my croquis underneath here to draw the back of my illustration. This is the back right here, what it's going to look like when I'm finished. And what I need to do now is I need to draw the back of my t-shirt. Now the back of the t-shirt, if you can see here, it's kind of scooped down. That's the way I'm going to draw it. I'm going to just scoop it down just a little bit like this. Then I'm going to follow the line of the shoulders. I'm going to follow the seam line here for my sleeve seam. And now I need to draw my sleeve, curve it a little bit right there. Now over here I'm not going to be able to see the whole thing. I'm going to come over here. Now to get the sleeves the same length, what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow this line right here. This is the angle, so I'm going to follow the same angle right over to here. There's the bottom of my sleeve right there. I'm going to curve it a little bit, and I'm going to bring this down. It's got to go over her butt and over her hip here. I want it to be about the same length, of course, so I'm going to swing it down there, and pretty much that's it. Let me take this out of here so you can see it. Oops, I forgot to draw the figure, so let me put this back underneath here. Very important that you make a figure underneath it. So I've got to give her a little neck, got to give her the back of her head, ear. Make sure I've got it lined up in here. I got to give her an arm, like this. Here's her arm here, little hand, and now I have a figure. So now I can take out my croquis. And I forgot one thing. I forgot her shoulder seam, the sleeve seam, and that's going to follow the contour of her back right here. All right. A lot of times you really can't tell what you've got until you take the croquis out. So there's my illustration. Now I think this is up a little high. Can you see how far out this is going? So I don't like where I have that drawn. So I'm going to erase that like this. And in order to get it to match this, because where this disappears, it has to come out over here, I'm going to give this a little bit more breathing space. And that's pretty much my t-shirt. So then what I'd do is I'd go in, I'd put a piece of tracing paper over it, I would trace it with my 2 pens, and that would give me my front view and my back view. What it is that you are going to submit for your assignment for lesson 4. You are going to take the very same designs that you used in lesson 1 that I've graded and returned to you, and you're going to draw front and back views of those 4 shirts. So you're going to do the same 4 shirts that we have the flats of already. You're going to draw both a front and a back view of those 4 shirts, and we're going to use the croquis that I have, that I provided for you. And then you're going to trace them in black ink. They've got to include the croquis, just like I showed you. Don't worry about a face and hair. Keep it really simple. We're really just interested in the t-shirt itself. And when you turn it in, be sure and include lesson 1 so that I can see what your original flats look like for comparison. So let me show you an example of what you'll be turning in. First of all, you'll have a front view and a back view of 4 different t-shirts. So here's a front view, here's a back view. Now you'll notice that there's a lot more. Now you may or may not be able to get them all on the same sheet. I've got 1, 2, 3 on this one. Here's the front and back, front and back, front and back of these 4, and I have the last pair on this second sheet. So that will be what you'll turn in. Now you'll notice that these are labeled because what I want to be able to do is match them up to your original drawings. So if this is your original drawing number 1 with your flat, it should say number 1, and here is shirt number 1 drawn in the illustration. So that's what I want. I want the flat, and I want the front and back illustration of the same garment. Here's, let's see, number 2, which is right here. Here's the front, and here's the back. Number 3 is right here. You can see it's got the square neckline. There's the front and the flat, and here's the front and here's the back. So you'll have to use your imagination, and you'll have to figure out. Now I see an error. This is one that a student did. I can see an error right here in this drawing. This is what I'm going to be looking for. Now you can see on her front of number 3, she's got a raglan sleeve. See where it's coming into the neckline? This should also come into the neckline like this. It should also be a raglan neckline. This wouldn't be here, and this wouldn't be here. So little things like that are things that I'm going to be looking for so that you can make sure that you have them drawn correctly. So when you have these done, they're traced in ink, you've got your front and back views, go ahead and resubmit in the Dropbox lesson number 1 so I can see your flats, make sure everything's labeled, and then take a picture, scan it, either scan it on your scanner or take a picture with your phone and save it as a JPEG and submit this to the Dropbox, and I'll get it graded for you. And you're on your way, your first illustration.